G'day and welcome to the Campfire Project. And today on another panel discussion, I have Heather Joy-Bassett, who is a business and life strategist, speaker and author. How are you, Heather?
Very good. Good to be here. Hi.
Excellent. And we have Kylie Hutchison, who is a death doula. How are you, Kylie?
Fantastic. Thank you for having me, Alan.
Oh, you're welcome. Now, as everybody knows, we generally have four of us on the panels, but today we have technical issues again with people being able to connect through. So it'll just be the three of us. But we were looking at a number of different subjects. And the one that we were thinking of was how to stay positive in today's world, because I think this is a major issue that most of us are having and thinking of, well, we're coming out of COVID next year. Where's it all going to go? So, Kylie, would you like to start us off, please?
Yeah, how to stay positive this year, especially 2020. Awesome subject. Yeah, that's a big one. For me, I think there's this pressure on people to stay positive or to be upbeat or, you know, oh, okay, be the most positive person in the room and things like that. And I think we need to just sort of back that off and say, maybe it's okay. It's okay to not be okay and take some time. So and listen to your body. If you need to slow down, if you need to scream into your pillow or, you know, chopping wood's a really good one. Then my son and I were like, I'm going to chop some wood, man. Like gets a bit of the frustration out. And at the end of it, at least you have a pile of wood. But I think you just need to listen to your body when it's time to really not be okay. And if you need to sleep, then sleep. You know, find some healthy ways to deal with that. Drinking, not so healthy. Great, works, but it's not a long-term solution to that. But yeah, staying positive is as much as we'd all like to be especially me, be the most positive person. You know, and I think as a female, I was always right. That was sort of, the females will be the upbeat ones and the, you know, able to look after you sort of ones and pick it up. But yeah, it's not always easy, and it's okay to not do that.
And I'm glad you started us off with that, because it's one of the things that, you know, we were told that we're supposed to be upbeat, and then it's almost like we've got to be upbeat all the time. Yeah. But it's emotionally and physically impossible to be upbeat all the time because we have things affecting us. As a life strategist, you'd come across that quite a bit, that you just can't stay at that up level. You've got to have times when you're dealing with other issues.
Yeah, totally. One of the things that I found fascinating was when I did the Gallup strength profile. Positivity is my second highest strength. And then I'm like, so if I'm so positive, how is it that I get to be deeply depressed? But even within that, I was always positive because I always knew that it was going to get better. And then I remember being on a flight to Hawaii to be a book writing coach, and the whole thing it was when the storms were in Sydney, the whole airport was closed down. And I said to the guy next to me, you know, like, positivity is one of my highest strengths here. You know, I'm searching for my for the gold in this. And he's like, yeah, he's like, you're positively fucked. And I just cracked up. I thought it was beautiful. It was 43 hours for me to get to Melbourne to my end destination. But one of the things recently, I was with someone whose number one strength is positivity. And because when it's our highest strengths, we can always find that silver lining. And as I was listening to this person, I was really recognizing how painful it is when you can always see the silver lining. But for someone whose positivity is not in their top strengths, it's in their lower strengths, really recognizing, hang on, you need to be in the moment of being positively fucked, or in the shit, or in the compost. And if someone's always offering you this positive thing, then it's really, really painful to hear that, because, yeah, you have, I think now, you know, we have to have that experience of being where we're at, not just automatically flip to that. Yeah, she'll be right, mate.
Yeah, because I think that, you know, when they talk about, you know, staying positive all the time, but then we're also got all these emotions and everything else, and we're supposed to feel the emotions. How can you be feeling the negative, you know, the not so great emotions? I won't say negative ones, but the not so great ones, or in the moment where they're not so great, and still be absolutely positive all the way. It's just physically impossible. You can't be do two things at once.
Yeah.
And then I think that adds a layer of guilt on it. It's like, oh,
I should be.
Yeah, I should be positive. I should see the silver lining. It's like, fuck the silver lining. Maybe I can see it. I just don't want to look at it. And it's something I see with grief. People always, you know, being what I do, and people talking about dying, and they go, how do you do it? And I go, well, I sit there and say, well, this is shit.
Yeah.
It's shit. And you know, and there's that standard response that people say, you know, such and such died, and then someone says, oh, they're in a better place now, or they're out of pain now, and you go, yeah, they're still dead. Like, I'm still really upset about that. Yeah. And I think I say to people, well, sit with that. Like, this is where we're at. Meet people where they're at, and they're here, and they're sad or upset or angry or whatever. Then we have to feel that. We can't just go, okay, well, you know, they're dead now, but at least they had a will. Like, oh, what? At least they're in, like, how can, you know, it's shit. And some situations are just shit. 43-hour trip on a plane, that's shit. That's positively fucked.
Yeah. Positive. It's such a good one.
I'm feeling it. I love it.
I remember one of my clients, and she was manic. She would get very, very deeply depressed. And when she was in that really, really dark space, she couldn't see the light at all.
No.
And so at that stage, I can remember her standing before me so many times, and she'd just look up at me and go, is it going to be okay? And that, you know, that recognition that not everyone knows that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And yes, we're experiencing this, and it really sucks right now. But I recognize the importance of being able to say, hey, you know, it always gets better. You know, you know, it always gets better. You know, your journey this, but it always gets better. And I think especially this year, you know, what better looks like, who the hell knows, because it's been such a crazy year. You know, for me, because positivity is one of my highest strengths, then I know that I will always come out the other side. But if someone's, if I use Gallup's and there's 34 strengths, and the 34th strength is positivity, then it's like, what else can we tap into for that person? Because that thing about, you know, positivity, well, yeah, that works for those people who have got positivity in their top 5 or 10 or maybe 15 or 20. But if it's in the bottom half, and then their family members or their team members or something like that, and you're like, oh, come on, get on board with the positivity. It's like, yeah, it's going to work.
I think it's important that, you know, we really need to look at the phrases that we use, you know, like staying positive in today's world. You know, it's an expectation that's impossible, because we're going to be, you know, there's only one thing constant in life, and that is change. And so things are always going to be changing. To stay positive in that, we've really got to shut ourselves down from everything, and that's not positive. So straight away, we're no longer positive. So because you know, when you hear that phrase and people say, oh, you've got to be positive and everything else, it's like, say that once more, and I'm going to positively punch you in the face. You know? I'm positive I'm going to get angry. There's your positivity.
With you, yeah.
So it's, how do we, how should we be rephrasing this in a way in which, as you said, Heather, those that don't have positivity in their higher values, but in their lower half, how should we phrase this so that we, because I'm guaranteed if we're telling people you've got to stay positive, that's annoying so many people and pushing them further away from being positive.
Yeah. And I think that there is that, then, as Kylie says, that expectation that you should. And I was talking with someone quite recently, and I said, hey, I'm really struggling. And he's like, and I've talked about on the campfire, but I was quite suicidal a lot of last year and the start of this year. And some of it was a side effect of meds. Some of it was just, I don't know, life. It just was. And so I shared with someone that I was really struggling, and his response from this learned, awakened person was, well, you know, you create your own reality.
Oh. Hey, that's like, I can't believe how many times I've seen that this year. People go, oh, it's your mirror. It's your mirror. You create your own reality. And you go, like, man, I didn't create this. Collectively, we didn't do this shit.
Exactly.
But that, you know, well, you need to work on your mindset. And it's like, I was just like, it really was like a fuck you. But I was at such a low stage. I thought there is no point me ever having I don't know whether there's ever point me having a conversation with you ever again. Even when I'm, you know, flying and having a grand time, but just that awareness, that no empathy. And if we miss the sympathy, the empathy, the validation, those steps that Brene Brown talks so beautifully through, then we're dismissing people from where they're at. It's like, well, that's not good enough, you know, and then comes that, you know, the sum of the 5 people you're around. And then so like, well, if somebody's having a bad time, you know, maybe they've been on meds that have made them suicidal, well, we'll just wipe them because, you know, they're not positive enough right now, and we'll just wipe them from our life. I mean, to me, we've got something there. Oh, I'm laughing. It's not really funny, but it's ridiculous. It is seriously ridiculous. This expectation of being like, yep. And I have a couple of mentors who like, you know, I'm always positive, and I'm like, no, you are not. But that is the face that you put. And every now and then there'll be this tiny little, oh, you know, I've had a bit of a hard time. Like, don't put this bullshit onto people that we have to be this flaming positive it drives me insane. Just so you know, it drives me insane that you have to be they're positive.
Not, and they may well be positive, but then it's something else. They're like short-tempered or angry, or they, you know, kick the dog. Like, I'm like, they may be all like this, but then it's coming out somewhere else. I guarantee you.
No,
coming out somewhere else.
As a profiler, I can tell you most of them are telling you what they aren't able to achieve themselves. They will tell you that, you know, you created this environment and everything else, but their lives are crap. You know, I can show you ways of asking little questions and watch them crumble very quickly if they annoy you too much. There is also, I also say that one of these comes in every size.
Yeah.
And shake them, you know, and wake them up. But there are so many people who throw these little sayings out because, you know, it's almost like the, what would you call it, fairy dust, and it's all, you know, life is great and everything else because I got it all together. But I can guarantee those people haven't got it together. They're saying what they're trying to tell you is what they're trying to convince themselves of in the first place. And it doesn't take much in a conversation to actually get them to fire up. And I can, you know, it doesn't take much to recognise the people who aren't living what they're saying.
Yeah.
And I think that I get really annoyed with them simply because it's their ego, but when they're talking, they're upsetting and affecting the other people, but they're telling that rubbish too.
And I think often a lot of the people, you know, spouting it, yeah, I always think people have good intentions, but you know, that's my positivity for coming into that's my positivity coming into play. But it is often people who are held in quite high regards or esteem as being the mentor or the guru or the coach of having all of that. And so, you know, there are people that really are looking up to them, and it's like, and there's that expectation and that should, you know, I have to be happy. I have to be joyous. I have to be, it's like masturbating, and I shouldn't be doing the should I? It's that have to that I think this year for a lot of people, it's just like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, no, we are humans who are here to have well, you know, some people don't even believe that, but you know, we're here having a human experience. Journey. Yeah. And in that, I like playing with the it's like 4 primary colors. There are 4 primary feelings, and that's anger, sadness, fear, and joy. And there's a body of work that said everything is an extrapolation of that. We are not one-dimensional people, and anger is clarity and boundaries, and sadness is the empath, the lover, the connector of humanity. Fear is our intuition and our guidance. And then we could still have joy floating along with all of that. But if we get rid of those other feelings, then we're missing all that part of us. So yeah, I don't want to play in that space.
And I think there's this expectation that you have to be one for the other. Like, oh, I'm sad today. Like, women are probably better at explaining and doing it than men. Men are sort of not so much in tune with their emotions. Not you, Alan, of course, you've had it. But women,
I'm glad you said that.
We know.
Otherwise.
Yeah, no. But I think women being a little bit more in touch with our emotions traditionally than men, we know that I can be happy about something my son did, sad about something else, angry about something, and I can have all that all at the same time. And I saw it. It was in a movie. It was a Harry Potter movie, and there's a scene where Hermione says something to the 2 boys, and she says, "But I'm upset about this, and I'm confused about this, and I'm angry about this," and one of the boys goes, "How do you hold all that in, like all at once? Like really all at once?" And she was like, "Yes." And they're like, "Okay, we don't know how to handle that." You know, it's just really, it's funny. And I just think, oh my God, that just totally explains it. That is, and it was everything that was going on, but she had different emotions about it. And I was like, that's where we're at. And it's okay. It's okay to be ridiculously sad about this other situation whilst being incredibly happy about that. And I think when you have this expectation, shoulding, I really love shoulding.
Yeah.
It's like, don't be shoulding. You shouldn't should.
And then,
there's
and masturbating as well.
Yeah. You should do that, or you shouldn't do that?
No, you shouldn't masturbate. I must do that.
I must do that. So they have this, oh, I have to be positive, and then it's not the real experience. And you know, we're complex creatures with lots of different things going on.
Yeah, because that sentence, you know, it's an absolute. It's a total. It's a permanent type thing. This is what it's got to be. When in reality, as you've said, with those 4 emotions, Heather, there were positive aspects even with the anger and with the fear and other things like that. What they are a representation of, which means there's going to be that flow, ebbing and flowing all the time. So in the comments that we're making, it'd be nice to be as positive as possible, as often as possible. But to say, how are you going to stay positive? I think we're asking people to do something that none of us can do.
No. Well, and I think that the movie Inside Out, if people haven't seen the movie Inside Out, do go and watch it. It's a kid's cartoon, but it's not really for kids. Well, it is. It's a fabulous movie to look at. You know, what happens if you exclude that part, that feeling.
It's a great movie.
What happens to you? So yeah, I don't know where I was going with.
But as you said, it's a combination of everything. You can't exclude anything out of our emotions or anything else, and they're going to be changing depending on the situations. There's going to be a lot of movement, but it's.
Well, you know what I think I was going to say. It's exhausting to be around somebody who is in one dimension. Like if they are constantly angry, that's exhausting. Yeah. To be with someone who is constantly sad, that's exhausting, because that's me sometimes, and it exhausts me. To be in constant fear or to be in constant joy, it's just like, whoa, like, hang on, like we need for me, we need it all. And I have got some mentors who, so many people, it's like, you know, it's time you stepped into the joy and stayed there. And I'm like, I don't want to. I really don't. I'm like, and then I'm like, oh, is that just my shadow self? But to be just that one dimension, you know, my dad's 88 a couple of days ago. My mum's 87. My aunt's 100. You know, I get sad that I'm not with them as much as I want to be. And yeah, I'm still very joyous of the luxury of having been around them for 62 and a half years. But I get sad. I don't want to lose that. I don't want, when they're gone, not to be able to grieve. Like, that's just ridiculous. And a lot of people, I think, this year in 2020 are grieving a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, lost businesses, lost connections, lost, like, and yes, there's that positive side, but there's many, many things that people are grieving at the moment. So if we don't create that space to grieve and be angry and to be scared for a moment about, like, what the fuck's my future hold? I don't know. Like, to go, oh yeah, you know, so yeah, that's just, yeah, it's just dumb in my book.
It's there's a lot of grief in 2020. Everything from not just you know, but it's almost like potential. For me, with my son's 16, I was like, wow, what kind of world is he about to enter into? That's a grief as well. You know, like, as an adult, I've got my own stuff going on, but really looking at what kind of world we're leaving this next generation.
Yeah.
But it's everything. And even he had some real existential crises about stuff. You know, I was like, what's going to happen, and where's this going to go, and is this ever going to end, and what's going to happen with my schoolwork? And you know, I had friends with kids doing year 12. That was massive. Massive. All that. I mean, there's enough pressure on kids with year 12, let alone having to do that. And you have to feel that emotion. You have to realize it. Yeah. Actually, I had a conversation with a psychologist about it, who is not my psychologist, but a friend of mine who was having a beer with. It was interesting. And he said, you know, super busy, but he said, I'm busy after it. Like, it's, you know, the COVID especially hit, you know, there was bushfires and stuff for me and a lot of people, and then COVID, and then people kind of went into, okay, all right, we have to stay home and we have to do this. And he said, then it went on for so long that we kind of got used to the quiet. So we got used to not commuting, used to working from home, dealing with the way homeschooling wasn't easy. But then when they had to go back to how that was when it got crazy, because then they realized, hang on, I was living here. It was this constant go, constant anxiety, kids to sports, commuting to work, you know, all of these things were happening all the time. And then we're in lockdown, and our little bubble went to here, and it was all on the screen, and you could just turn it off. And he said then it was the going back to all the noise that was everyone struggled with, because we realized how heightened we were and how much anxiety we were running on adrenaline at this point. And that's when the sort of the grief and anxiety about how to handle it kicked in again, which is, you know, you're all positive that you've survived it, but now you're like positive you don't want to go back to how it was before. All those people are like, let's get back to normal. I was like, normal sucked, man. That was shit. I like this working from home business.
And what is normal anyway?
What is normal anyway? Yeah.
Well, last Saturday I went to Sydney, and the first thing I did, I don't like driving down, so I always catch the train, because especially I was going out to a cruising on the harbour. I knew I'd be having a few out there, so I'm not getting back in a car. And I went down the day before to the railway station, and I'm getting on at the top end of the train, you know, at the very beginning of the journey. So there's no one else on the train except for the people that get on. And I'm going in there to find out what it's like to travel down there. Are there designated seats? Are there spots where you can sit and spots where you can't? Is there physical distancing and everything else? And I realised I must have been asking quite a few questions, because there's very nice railway workers taking a lot of compassion and everything else and explaining it all to me. And I went down, and it was great. You know, there was that many vacant spots on the train. But tomorrow being for me is Friday, and I'll be going to Sydney again, and I'm going through it all again. Now it's a work day. It's not a Saturday.
Yeah.
So what's it going to be like? Alan, you're getting on, yes, I'll drive down to the next station because I can park down there, but still it's not going to be full. It's the other people who are getting on further down the track. It's their problem about whether they can sit or get out of the carriage again.
Yeah.
And I'll be doing the same at the other end. I'll get on at the very beginning of the journey again in Sydney when I come home. But the way I'm thinking and going, well, what are all the extra ramifications, all that sort of stuff? And now I've got to get to this new normal, and what will the new normal be? So that's going to be an interesting one. And I think it's important, looking at the subject today, is to move away from terms that are absolute, that we, how do we stay positive? Well, how can we rephrase that? I think is probably more important, because I know a lot of people may have listened to the very beginning of it and go, oh God, they're going to be talking about how to stay positive. I think they're going to be full of it, because how can you stay positive? And I think that, and they'd be very right with that thinking, because as we started the conversation, that's what I've been thinking about, a lot of these people who are making those statements with an expectation that everyone's, and therefore I can't stay positive all the time, because things happen around me and I know my other emotions are going to come in. I'm going, and yes, because everyone says you've got to experience the emotions, I'm going to be experiencing the fear or the anger or whatever it is. And I'm sure that that's not going to be positive at that particular time.
And you know what I love? They're expecting us to be full of it. Well, it's good to know that we're half empty. Okay. So.
There's a positive.
That absolute just it's not realistic. It can't be.
And it sets you up for failure. Just
pardon?
It sets you up for failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's probably more appropriate, instead of saying how can we stay positive, how can we set ourselves up for the best possible outcome for us or me as an individual, is what I should be asking. And everybody be possibly asking a similar question for themselves. How can I set myself up? How can I work with my emotions to work through what I need to work through, but come out with a positive outcome? And in that, then I know the outcome is the end of the journey. But on a journey, you're going to go up and down hills. You're going to go around corners. You're going to go through, heat and everything else. If you're on a physical trip, you're going to have a lot of variation along that. It's kind of sections where you go faster, sections where you go slower. But the outcome, the journey, how can I get the best outcome that I can possibly create for myself? And that takes the pressure off then the absolute of, how do I have it, stay positive?
And even with that, I think when people are, well, I know for myself, because I've been in psych wards with depression and things, so I know it's never only me. But sometimes it's not, well, what's the best outcome? It's just like, what do I need now? Because one of the things is, again, one of my top strengths is being futuristic. But if someone else's strength, lowest strength is futuristic, then you're saying, where do you want to be in the future, and what do you want in the future? And it's like, can I get out of bed today?
Yeah, just get past what I'm
so for people who are deeply struggling, then it's like really recognizing, what do I need? And there are times where people say, what do you need? And I'm like, huh? It's like, don't even know that. And then it's like, well, yeah, don't even know that. So for anyone who's listening, who is really in that space about, yeah, you really don't know what the fuck you want in the future, and you're really not sure of what your needs are, then it would be like me saying to my beautiful client over 30 years, that just know that it will get just know that it gets better. And sometimes we just need that someone just to give us that reassurance. So again, there's the sympathy, there's empathy, there's validation, there's reassurance that, yeah, you're going to come out the other side of this. Just hang on. And I know even when I was a single mum, very depressed with the business, and solo parent, And one of my teenage son, I was having angst with him, and his thing was, your job is still to be standing on the other side of all of this shit. That's just your job. And the amount of times when stuff it felt like coming at me, and it felt like I had, you know, no control over anything, and it was in a really deep space. It was like, just got to be standing on the other side. And I may have laid down in between, but it's like, you know, my job was just to know that it's all going to shift. And again, you know, my son's a beautiful 28-year-old. I'm a grandma with 2 kids. And it did, you know, that cycle, some people it's a 7-year cycle, those cycles go around. And then when they go around, something will shift.
Yeah. Alan said it before, the only constant is change.
Yeah.
And it will change. And sometimes holding on to that, like you said, sometimes holding on to that, this will change. But what isn't that one of those, this too shall pass?
That's right.
Yeah. And that's really hard. But that expectation of understanding that it will sets us up all the time. And I see it when I'm dealing with people with death. There is even this, it creeps in there where there's this pressure now to have a good death. And yeah, for fuck's sake. And there's this, you know, a good death is, you know, all of these things. And I'm like, there's no such thing. I mean, death, you know, you can have the best possible outcome for what, you know, or your expectations of what you want. But I've had people that wanted to die at home, and I'm like, okay, that's plan A. We'll get you there. It may not happen. Various different things have to line up for that to happen, and it can in a lot of cases. And my last client that died at home, you know, at one point there, I had a conversation with her and said, I'll try, but we're at a point where I have to get you to hospital. Your pain isn't managed, dehydrated. We need to get you there. And if I have to bust you out to get you home, I'll do it. But I might not be able to bust you out. I'm going to try. We got her home, and she did, but it's not always what you want. And so to add a good death on top of that is really horrible, you know. And people have this expectation of even a good life, or a good year with whatever. And it's by whose standard, by how, you know.
That's it.
I think we just need to manage our expectations more about what is expected and what is possible and what is achievable. And
I think it's good to actually look at what's being said and ask yourself, well, what is really being said? And where is it really coming from? You know, how do I have the best or stay positive and motivated, etc.? How do I, you know, stay positive for today and into the future? Those expectations are pretty hard to actually achieve, and I'd be, as I said before, ask, you know, who's saying that? Where's it coming from? And are they really dealing with their stuff? Is that something that is an expectation of somebody else? Is it the fact that they don't want to deal with anything that they come up with those comments? And we need to look at where it comes from, so that we don't take other people's stuff on with these expectations which aren't achievable, that those people themselves can't have achieved. And that puts extra pressure on a business. So you're saying, oh, stay positive, and you're going, but I've got all this stuff against me, and all of a sudden now you feel worse again because you can't stay positive.
Well, especially when it's like, just work on your mindset. Just work on your mindset and be positive. You've just got to do more work. You've got to have another one-on-one with me. You've just got to have another one-on-one with me. You've got to do more work. You've got to pay for the next course because you've just, you know, you're not doing the work. You got to, and I believe that momentarily at times, and some people get very rich doing that, and some people get very poor doing that. But I think if we stop and explore the definition of what's my definition, not, you know, my beautiful dad who's 88, not his definition, not mum's definition, not my, you get to an age where it's called midlife, because it's like parents and the kids. It's like that midlife, but it's like, it's not your definition of what in business as well. We're all entrepreneurs, of what success is, of what happiness is. It's not your definition, and it's not your definition, and it's not your definition. It's not your definition. It's my definition.
That's it.
Of what I really.
Yeah. It's funny, when I had a business coach once who said to me, I'm going to throw these words at you and I want you to say, you know, first thing that comes to mind. And he threw a couple of words at me, I can't remember. And then he said, success. And I said, by whose definition? And he went, no, by yours. And I was like, no, that's my answer. And he went, oh, nobody's ever said that.
But it's an interesting one again.
Yeah.
If we throw human design in, and again, I like my typologies or profiling, like Alan likes his versions. And in that, it would say that projectors want recognition and success, and they make up like 21% of the world. And the other, you know, the 70% of the world just generally want to feel satisfied, tick the boxes at the end of the day, feel good, done good. So when success is thrown out there, it's not a word that really, if you sit and have the conversations with people, it's not a word that many people even relate to. But yeah, it's in the hype of the coaching and the pitches of, you know, wanting to be successful, and then people sort of buying, oh yeah, I want to be successful. And I'm like, have the conversation and go, do you really? Or do you want to, at the end of the day, feel like you tick the boxes? Or do you want peace? Or do you want, they're like, well, yeah, just at the end of the day, want this. And I'm like, yeah, well, cool.
That's it.
Success.
Yeah, just go for that. Success is by your own definition. It comes back to the shoulding and the musting.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
You know, it's so many words that are used. It's a little bit like search engine words, isn't it? You
Yes.
know, that you got to be successful, you got to be that, or you got to be whatever. And as you said, Kylie, by whose definition? You know, everyone's definition of success is completely different. You know, freedom, wealth, all of those things are different. And you know, I think when somebody says, "Oh, you got to be this," you know, stay positive or whatever, I think we're doing a lot of damage to the people that were saying that too. Because you know, if you are saying it, I look in the mirror and say it, and just look at how what you look like and how you're feeling when you say it, and how genuine that feels or doesn't feel. And if it doesn't feel genuine, stop saying it to people.
Yeah.
You were saying, Heather, going through those stages and being in that moment, and that, you know, because all the people who work with the emotions will tell you, you need to be able to sit in the emotion, you need to be able to name it, you need to be able to experience it, or otherwise it's just ignoring it. And those people are saying you've got to stay positive, well, they're ignoring all that stuff. So how can they be staying positive?
And
Sooner
even
or later, it's got to come back and smack them on the back of the head.
or maybe a left hook or right hook. Straight. Even when this year I studied the science of flow and peak performance. And in that, there's 4 stages of flow, because people want to get into flow states where, you know, flow that, you know, everything else is gone, they're deeply focused, they're getting work done, or they're sitting on the mountain. At the reality is there's 4 stages of flow, and one of them is struggle. And when I read that, I literally laughed out loud. I'm like, oh, all these people who are saying, you know, oh, you get into flow, and it's like, one of the stages of flow is struggle. And then every day there's a whole lot of evidence behind it, and there's research, there's 50 odd years of research. And there's those momentary struggles, there's those daily struggles, there's those weekly, and then there are some people, for sometimes it's like a couple of years of struggle before they find flow. So again, that puts it into, you can have more grace and ease through the struggle, but struggle is a normal part. It's a normal part of life. So you're not necessarily going to be feeling chipper and positive on that one.
No,
and there's so many stories of people that have, you know, been knocked back and knocked back and knocked back and then get it. Like they just keep going. Yeah. And it's obviously a struggle, and you have to just if that's where you need to be or where you want to go or what you're trying to get to. Yeah.
And I think that then comes in like grit and perseverance and stuff, and that thing of like, we know it'll pass type thing. But you know, it comes down to the perseverance and the grit. You know, and unfortunately, many people just cash in and go, I can't keep doing this. So if there's anyone listening who thinks they can't keep doing this, I'm like, you can reach out. Hold on, I'm going to throw that positive in. Please reach out, because you know, I've been there. We've all been there, and we do know that it really sucks when we're in that deep, dark friggin' place. But reach out, grab a hand. You're not alone.
And that's why I always say it's important, if you're looking for a coach, and that is not just get someone who's, you know, set up as a coach, but find a coach who has been through what you're going through, and actually has the experience and everything else, and can share with you the ups and downs that they had as well. Because once you start working with somebody, it's not just going to be, okay, it's crap and now it's going to be perfect and it's just a straight linear line. It's going to go all over the place. But knowing that you've got a coach who understands, not one that says, oh, you've got to be this, you've got to be that. And if you're not, then just do more of it. You know, we're having that conversation with a coach, you find out those that have really been through that journey, who really had the experience, who can help you. Because as I say, the second fastest growing industry on the planet is coaching. And that's because the fastest growing one was technology. We're more connected via devices than we've ever been before, but we're less connected to ourselves and each other. And everybody, you know, we had so many motivational speakers and coaches out there who were pushing, well, you can make a fortune being a coach and everything goes. And a lot of people jumping into that haven't been through their stuff yet.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's important to, if you are working with a coach, keep questioning the phrases that they're using and what they're telling you that you should be doing.
I think with that, I mean, it is one of the fastest growing industries. And there was a coach that put out that she was offering free sessions because it was Gratitude Month or something. It was, she was in another country, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to accept someone's help. It's usually me being of service, and I thought, okay, I'm going to receive here. And then, yeah, she was doing it. She didn't have her hours up. She just started on her coaching journey. She had to get her, 100 hours up or whatever. And I thought, we've all got to start somewhere. I get it. When I started my podiatry many years ago, we all have to start somewhere, even with mentoring and stuff. But to put it out there, if she put it out there that, hey, I'm in my early stages and had been upfront with it, I would have been fine. But within 15 minutes there, I was just like, you sort of lied on the offer.
That's it.
And you have sort of stolen my time. And I'm like, so I was a bit positive, and I was a bit peeved, because it was like, well, just be upfront about it. But again, they're taught in the coaching things, you just put it out there. And so I find that again fascinating about how much work have people done. And again, someone can help you who's half a step ahead of you. Can help you.
That's it.
And then someone who is 10 steps or 20 steps or 30 steps is going to give you a different experience. So just know that there is that range of people who can.
Because sometimes that person is just part of a step ahead of you. They'll end up being the better connection, because the person is so many steps ahead of you has got to the point where they're no longer, they've been beyond where you're going through at the moment for so long that they've lost a connection with it as well.
Well, that's true for some. I definitely don't think it's. I would hate you to put me in that box and go, well, you're too far ahead because you've been doing it for centuries. I think that's a possibility, but it's.
No, all I'm saying is
ego comes into it. If you're a long way ahead and then you look back to someone, and I've had people, especially in the spiritual community, get that. They go, oh, you just haven't done the work yet. And you go,
You what?
fuck, haven't done the work yet, or you haven't, or you're just not there yet, or you're just not awake enough. You know, you're not spiritual enough because you haven't done it. You go, fuck you. Like, how do you know what I haven't done? And so that's an ego. They're like, I'm just so much further above you.
So that person isn't above you. The fact that their ego's there means that they haven't even got anywhere near
I'm like,
there.
dude, I'm so much further above you. And it's like, it's not above. It's actually level, different path. You're on that path, and I'm like, hey, what's going on down that road? You know?
See, that's why I
don't want to go down there.
I'm hanging left, you're hanging right.
So that's why I was saying sometimes the person who's just a little bit ahead of you might be the better person than the other person. The other person may have the ego and everything else, but at the same time, they may be the perfect person.
That's
it comes back to having conversations. Talk to the coach, find out more about what they're doing, listen to the conversation. You'll know how much they're connected to their ego and how much they're connected to what they've actually experienced.
But the big thing with having those conversations, though, is because I had many conversations with my psychiatrist, and I was never, there were things that I didn't ever speak about that, had I spoken about, would have changed the trajectory of my life. And obviously it's not meant to be there. There's the positivity in there. One of the things is, you know, with love and compassion, that you are radically honest with someone, because otherwise the transformations that you get, the awareness that you get is quite superficial. So if, you know, we need to develop that relationship and that trust so as you can be really open and bare your heart and soul. Because as a health practitioner, I used to deal with wounds and they would just be covered up with skin. And the doctor would say they're healed, and the nurses would say they're healed, and every other health professional would say they're healed. And I'd just take one look and go, no, you got a big hole there, and it's just covered up. But I would, and in the end, I would actually have to take photos because I would open that up, because that was my job. And then, but I would have to take photos because otherwise people would say, you caused that. And I'm like, it's this big hole sitting under a tiny piece of skin here. It's just closed over. It's not, and that's the thing, if you can't actually, if the coach, the strategist can't see, the doula can't see what you're actually working with, then you're going to get quarter the results or half the results. And again, if we're really, really open and transparent, and then you may go, and cool, now I just opened my heart and soul to you and realize that you're not the person for me. Great. Great. You've got to start there, I think.
Yeah. Well, see, the conversation, you know, as you said, you've got to have that openness. You're not going to build trust if you don't. It's not a conversation if you haven't got that. It's just storytelling. And that's all you've got when you haven't got, you know, when I talk about conversations, if it's not honesty, it's not a conversation. It's storytelling. It's somebody trying to, you know, put a viewpoint across, which has got nothing to do with the real truth. That's why when these conversations we have in the panel discussion, you know, we delve into things, you know, I see these as being honest discussions because we're open about it all. And, you know, I'd see anything other than that, well, that's just people telling stories that, you know, probably don't have any basis in fact. I think that's quite important. So I think we've come to the point where we've gone from the subject that we started with and going, that's a load of crap. How to stay positive in today's world. It's like, don't put your focus there.
Don't, no. Don't put that pressure on yourself.
That's it.
Or on anyone else.
Yeah.
And if people, you know, ask yourself when somebody says something to you, what are they really saying? Where is it coming from and everything else? Don't take them as being the ones who have the authority and everything else and they feel worse about yourself. Because there's so many people I hear who listen to other people's conversations and you can see it in their face. They're getting all upset because they go, oh, I'm even worse off than I was before, or I'm not as good as what I thought I was before. And even then it wasn't really good. And I go, you've taken on somebody else's stuff that has no, you know, have no basis in fact, but just be a story that they're telling. So first thing is, don't give yourself such a hard time.
Yeah.
And as you've been saying, Heather,
Yeah.
you know, you go through the different phases, you know, it's just, you know, going through the moment now, because every moment, like every situation in life, it will pass.
It's easier said than done in some situations, but
Oh, yeah.
trying to hold on to that, this
Yeah.
will pass.
And
Yeah.
if we lose sight of it, then it's going to be harder again. So in finishing up, what advice would, how would you wrap this up? Kylie, first of all.
Staying positive in today's world is an unachievable thing, and don't try and do it. Just go with live your life with, like, feel it, process it. There is absolutely light at the end of the tunnel. Absolutely, it is there, and I think radical honesty will help you face that and get to that point.
Excellent. And Heather?
Yeah, I think for each of us, it's like grab onto the thing. I don't know what that thing is for everyone. You know, for some people it's faith, for some people it's family, for some people it's, you know, it's put that stake in the ground and hang on and commit to being here no matter what, and feeling it and feeling it all. Just commit to feeling it all. And then you will, you know, that we go on that roller coaster. But it's commit to living this life and staying here. I think that's the most important thing.
I think that's really cool. And in that process, you know, as we keep saying, and that get the right people around us, have those conversations, be open in those conversations, and find the people who can help you from their experience.
And do reach out. If anyone's really struggling, just reach out. Send me a message on Facebook Messenger. I may not get back to you straight away, but even if we're not friends, it'll go to the spam folder and I'll find you there. So reach out, please. That's
it. Okay, well, excuse me, Kylie and Heather, thank you very much for being here. This has been great. So I always love the conversations, and I never know where they're going to take us. It's always a wonderful journey. So thank you very much. And as Heather said, guys out there, you know, if you've got any questions, reach out. And you'll find it with all the other panels. Everybody is on the panel. They want to share their experience and everything else, and they're all open to helping. So reach out. And again, thanks, guys, and to everybody who's been listening in. I hope you get a lot out of it, and we'll see you on the next campfire. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.